the anomaly, the aberration, the glitch, the inconvenient, the divergent, the string of junk code, the stubborn apple that falls nowhere near the tree or the forest. Be the fool, the bonehead, the idiot in the room. Let them shake their groupthink heads at you. Let them be ashamed of you, embarrassed of you, pissed off at you. They will call you names, and you must let them. Let them jeer, let them point, let them laugh. Be resistant to their mockery. Be the fodder for their jokes. Be a magnificent failure in their eyes. A tiger does not lose sleep over the opinion of sheep. Go ahead, be the scar tissue of their worldview, their normality. They will loathe you. They will fear you. They'll wish they were you.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Icke.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey. Thank you very much. Thank you. Whoa. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's like the comedian Peter Kay said, you know, don't peak too early like your dad, you know, said to me. So I've got to follow that for the next 10 hours. Thank you very much. That's great. Well, it's great to be back at Wembley. Isn't it amazing to say back at Wembley when you were a nutter 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago? And there'll be some media people here who come with the impression that I still am. But we're going to talk about that which is beyond the norm, which, of course, will challenge much of the mainstream media, if not all of it. And we're going to talk about awakening. And what is awakening? Awakening is realizing that we've been living a fake self-identity and sussing the nature of the true self-identity. And through the day, there's going to be one heck of a lot of challenging information, because we need to know what we're faced with before we can do anything about it. But I don't want people to freeze or think, oh, it's hopeless, what can we do? Because in our true state, in our awakened state, we have the power to change anything. We have got into this situation by realizing or not realizing the power we have, by not realizing the true nature of who we are. And we can and we will paint another picture in this generations and generations to come. We will paint another picture. Because that other picture is just a change of perception of self and reality. I am love, you are love, we are infinite consciousness, eternal, all that has been, ever can be. That is as bad as it can get. But from that, I am love. Yeah. You are love. Yeah. We are infinite consciousness. Yeah. The next question comes, what the bloody hell happened? What happened? How did infinite awareness get so confused that it becomes entrapped in this? Quick, honey, he's just said on the news that Osama bin Laden has reincarnated and he's dropping Ebola from a flying saucer. Quick, honey. What will Simon Cowell think? How did we get here? Well, it's a big story and it's a long story, but it's a story that if we know it, we can get out of this nonsense. How do we get into a situation, infinite awareness, all that is, has been, ever can be, where in some supermarkets in America, they put up 3 hands to tell you that's what 15 means at the checkout? How do we get there? And then there's this guy. How do we become ruled by people who say, Wind is a finite resource, and harnessing it would slow down the winds down, which would cause the temperature to go up. Someone voted for him. And then we have a president of the United States, for which it would be quite right to say, I would challenge you to a battle of wits, but I see you are unarmed. I mean, I get the feeling in me water that there's something not quite right here, that this can happen. What's gone on? If ignorance is bliss, there must be shitloads of people in paradise. But ignorance is bliss, but only for a while, till they knock on your door and ask for your papers. This is a great line. Mark Twain: never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. And we've all bloody been there. You have the right to remain stupid. Everything you do not know can and will be used against you, most likely for profit. You can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. And that's the whole point of today. A nation of sheep will soon have a government of wolves. And when you look around the world, that is what we have overwhelmingly, virtually everywhere. So how do we go from this to this? Like I say, it's a fantastic story, it's a long story, and an amazing story. And we went there because what we call stupid equals asleep, what we call asleep is hypnotized, and what we call hypnotized is unconscious. We have been systematically put into a state of unconsciousness so that we cannot see what we are part of and what we are experiencing, though that is changing and changing fast. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. All the time, the subconscious, which we're not aware of, is dictating the behavior and responses of the conscious. And if we don't understand the unconscious, then the conscious will just be a pawn in a game. It doesn't understand. Ignorance. The most violent element of society is ignorance. Ignorance is the key to everything, because everything comes from ignorance. What we will challenge, what we will accept, what we will respond to, what we will ignore, all comes from ignorance. What we will support and what we won't. And the idea from cradle to grave is to keep us in that state of ignorance. State schooling is stage one. Actually, it's stage two. Parents putting their programming onto their children before school is stage one if their parents are in that state of mind. But this is the first major program. State schooling decoded. It seems so complex, but all it means is that we're here to program your perceptions throughout your formative years so the state controls your mind for the rest of your life. End of story. And we call it education and learning about the world. No, it's learning about the world that in power wishes us to believe in. And here we go from school and we go into this free society. I'm free, I can do what I like. Go to work, get married, have children, act normal, walk on the pavement, watch TV, obey the law, save for your old age, then repeat after me, I am free. And we keep having to say we're free, and in America they keep having to tell the people they're free every 5 minutes because they might otherwise suss that they're not. Slavery was never abolished. It was only extended to include everyone. And yet people go so out of their way to convince themselves they're not in a state of slavery. This is slavery. But this could be an office where you have to be every morning at 9 o'clock. Otherwise you don't earn the money to survive another month. I mean, spot the bloody difference. apart from the fact the chickens can't go home at night and watch Simon Bloody Cow, I don't see a lot. Slavery, it works better when you don't tell them. Because then you get no response to the fact that they're slaves because they don't think they are. First stage of disconnecting from slavery, realize you're in a state of slavery. Then you know what to disconnect from. This is great, George Carlin. Oh, you hate your job? Why do you say so? There's a support group for that. It's called Everybody, and they meet at the bar. And that's not true of everybody, but the vast majority of people every morning around the world get up out of bed, if they have one, and go to do something they'd really rather not do, but they've got to pay the rent, so they've got to do it. They're pissing on us, and we say it's raining. No, we're free. We're free. I've got to vote every 4 years to vote for different masks on the same face. It's ever so free. Oh, Leonardo da Vinci. There are 3 classes of people: those who see when they are shown, those who do not see. And this system we call life is designed, again from cradle to grave, to make sure as many people do not see. And that's what I call the perception deception. I call my last book Perception Deception. I can't think of 2 words together that sum up our situation more than that. Because when there's a few controlling the many, you can't do it physically. You can do it physically in a small area. You can't do it physically across the world. You have to program the perception of the people so that they see the world the way that suits you. And from perception, again, comes everything. What I will challenge, what I will support, all of it. What I will see as good, bad, moral, immoral, all of it comes from perception, the point of perception. And that is the stadium on which the control of humanity is played out minute by minute. And it's even in their own quotes. These are 3 major CIA people. William Casey, CIA director, will know when our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. The CIA owns everyone of any significance in the major media. William Coley, CIA director. Deception is a state of mind and the mind of the state. James Angleton, infamous CIA operative. It's all a mind game. And if we don't fall for it, we don't fall into the trap of seeing that we are slaves while thinking we're free. And here he is, the personification of frickin' evil. Decade after decade after decade after decade. If he went to jail for his crimes against humanity, A, they would have to throw the key mid-Atlantic, not worth keeping it, and he would have to reincarnate many times to complete the frickin' sentence. It's not a matter of what is true that counts, but what is perceived to be true. Exactly. And if we believe official sources, we are believing what they want to perceive us to be true. And they don't, oh, it's gone off. It'll go on in a minute. They don't call it television programming for nothing. Television programming. Fear Ebola, fear ISIS, fear today, fear tomorrow, fear each other, fear Russia, fear for your kids, fear climate change, fear, 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 fear. Fear everything and then give us your power so we can save you from what we've manipulated you to fear. It's going on day after day after day across the great spectrum of society. It tells you what to wear, what to eat, what to think, what to love, what to fear, who to ridicule, who to condemn. And it makes stupid people famous. What is that? What is it? I mean, what is it? You know, my mother always used to get words wrong. She talked about defective inspectors and snatcher dispel. Snatcher dispel for anyone younger than me. And she'd look at that, she'd say, "Hey, up, Dave, she's twerping." Yes, mother, because she's a frickin' twerp. George Orwell, 1984. Football, beer, and above all gambling filled up the horizon of their minds. To keep them in control was not difficult. And note that, if you watch sport in this country, He wrote that all that time ago. In 1948, that book came out. Above all, gambling. The television sport coverage is awash with gambling. Who's that bloke? Ray Winston? Have a bang on that. Nah. I'm a man of the people, me. So lose your money. Nah. God, what bollocks we put up with. Imagine if everyone was this passionate about things that actually matter. What a world we would live in. Ah, jeez. I love football, but Mike, it's a game. They're kicking a bag of wind about. Some very skillfully, some not very skillfully, but it's a bag of frickin' wind. It's a game. They sell us our dreams to keep us asleep. They tell us what success is, so we pursue their version of success, which is more things and more things and more things. You are feeling sleepy. Just watch the watch and live your life as we tell you to live it. And all this together is what the great cosmologist and thinker Carl Sagan called the bamboozle. One of the saddest lessons of history is this. If we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you give a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. Almost never. But we're fricking going to. But that's what it is. It's a bamboozle. It's a mind program. And this state of being, this state of denial, is absolutely crucial to it. This is cognitive dissonance. This is a definition of it. Sometimes people hold a core belief that is very strong. When they're presented with evidence that works against that belief, the new evidence cannot be accepted. It would create a feeling that is extremely uncomfortable called cognitive dissonance. And because it is so important to protect the core belief, they will rationalize, ignore, and even deny anything that doesn't fit in with the core belief. And that's why people that stand out and say things that are different to the norm invariably get attacked, ridiculed, condemned, and all the rest of it, because you're challenging so many. Oh my God, how many core beliefs are going to be challenged today? My goodness me. Getting the Guinness Book of Records for the day's out. Mark Twain, it's easier to fool people than to convince them they have been fooled. Why? Because they don't, understandably, want to realize they've been fooled. But it's a wonderful thing to realize you've been fooled. It's a great gift, because from that point you will not be fooled any longer. It's a wonderful gift. People are embarrassed by it. This is another fundamental aspect of the bamboozle. It's called Stockholm Syndrome, a psychological phenomenon in which hostages express empathy and have positive feelings towards their captors, sometimes to the point of defending them. And this scene from the first Matrix movie captured the Stockholm Syndrome so perfectly. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged, and many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. And so you have people in uniform who are part of what people term the 99%, actually probably 99.9 if you really get to it, and yet they're defending the 1% or the 0.1% from the rest. As Plato said, the ancient Greek philosopher, those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses, because the program is so strong. But we are starting to break it up. And so throughout history, the lights have been destroyed and dismissed with by the candles, all the way through history. And decades, sometimes hundreds of years later, people look back and they go, they killed him, but he were right, wouldn't he? And what do? The same thing in their time frame as they did to them, just in a different way. And they think they're different. Jonathan Swift, when a true genius appears, you can know him by this sign, that all the dunces are in confederacy against him. And that's because anyone who is in any way enlightened is seeing through the program, and that which is still controlled by the program will therefore be in confederacy against him or her. And this great man, Giordano Bruno, died at the stake thanks to the Roman Catholic Church in 1600 for saying things that all this time later we know to be true. It is proof of a base and low mind for one to wish to think with the masses or the majority, merely because the majority is the majority. Truth does not change because it is or is not believed by a majority of the people. Great, great quote. So true. When you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Why? Because history shows us that invariably the majority are always following a cul-de-sac or a dead end. Mahatma Gandhi, many people, especially ignorant people, want to punish you for speaking the truth, for being correct, for being you. Never apologize for being correct or being years ahead of your time. If you're right and you know it, speak your mind, speak your mind. Even if you are in a minority of one, the truth is still the truth. And I would suggest that in our reality, this is the truth. We live in a fricking lunatic asylum. All right? Now imagine that you are born into a madhouse. You grow up in the madhouse. Your parents are from the madhouse. Your teachers are from the madhouse. Your scientists and your academics are from the madhouse. Your doctors are from the madhouse. All of them. The journalists are from the madhouse. Doesn't necessarily need to scan very, very far for that, does it? But what then happens is someone who's not grown up in that situation comes along and says, this is a frickin' madhouse. But to you, the madhouse is normal because it's all you've ever known. And thus, to you, someone saying the madhouse is mad is themselves mad. It's one of the great examples of human inversion, this inverted society. And as this man said, brilliant, birds born in a cage think flying is an illness. What you've been brought up with is your normal, however bloody mad it may be. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And that sums up the madhouse. That sums up the madhouse. People who have become well adjusted to a profoundly sick society to the point where they think it's normal. And who runs the institutions of this world? People like that, because of the system that puts them there. It's great. An idiot is a genius to another idiot, because that's their perception of what a genius is. So, let's look at this madhouse and what is considered normal. We kill people who kill people because killing people is wrong. I mean, I was that high, and I was said to me, Dad, we're still hanging people in Britain then. They're like, what are they hanging them for? They say killing's wrong. What are they doing? Couldn't work it out. It's madness. Oh, no, an eye for an eye. Yeah, it makes the whole world blind. Yeah, gotcha. Here you go. I heard you throw bombs on people who throw bombs at you because you are throwing bombs at them, so they will stop throwing bombs at you. Just wanted to ask how it was working so far. Wow. Jeez. Here we go, a bit of madness. Numbers of people murdered by governments from 1900 to 1999 alone, 262 million. That's the only ones I know about. What it took to develop this fighter jet would have given every homeless person in the US a $600,000 home. Always money for war, not for peace and people. And there's a reason for that, which we'll come to later. $1,735 billion spent on war in 2012. It would take an estimated $175 billion a year to eradicate poverty. Some say a bit more, but certainly not even close to that. Why? Inversion. It's not something that's a crisis that's natural. It's a scam. There is no need for one single person on this planet to be hungry and to be homeless. No reason whatsoever. It's there because it's made to be there for all the reasons I'm going to explain today. And here we go. Here's a bit of madness. No, it's sanity. It's sanity. What we do is we put poison on the food and then we frickin' eat it. And that's considered sane. And you get these people, they say, what do you mean organic food's better than the food with poison on it? That's crazy. What? That's what they say. Don't dance then. And then we borrow money that doesn't exist called credit and then pay interest on it. And we give all the things that are worth anything to the bankers for lending us money that doesn't exist called credit. Hey, it's a crazy world. No, it's not. It's not. It's not sane. And this is all going on now. This is all going on more and more day after day. Well, you've got to protect us from terrorists. The people putting them up are the terrorists. Think while it's still legal. Now, people might think that's a bit of a joke. It's not. No. Psychiatrists now say nonconformity is a mental illness. Only the sheeple are sane. They've got a name for it. They've always got a name. Oppositional defiant disorder. What? Apparently I'm a terminal case. For which I'm delighted. Now, pulling this all together, what we're looking at is what I call bubble people. Bubble people. They live in a bubble of perception and reject anything outside of that perception. Thus, they stay in the bubble. And so all these institutions are programming beliefs and perceptions in the bubble. And unless you break out of it, they're the only perceptions you ever come across. I mean, I love this one, experts. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we have an expert with us. And normally what follows after, and here's an expert, is a clueless prat. That's what I find, myself. Clueless at what they're talking about. Scientists talking about reality when they haven't got a clue what reality is. So, and then the arrogance of the bubble. Because the bubble thinks that anything outside its bubble has got to be crazy and must not be believed, and you must ridicule those that are outside the bubble. They can't be credible. They'll be inside the bubble with me. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance, said Einstein. And my goodness me, this reality is awash with it. Here's a wonderful example. Professor Richard Dawkins at Oxford University, who ridicules and attacks anything that's kind of different, and the arrogance of ignorance. Do you know something that's absolutely unquestionable? There's no doubt whatsoever, cannot be challenged. We don't know everything. At any point, we think we know up to a point. But there's always more, vast more to know. The arrogance of ignorance says, I know what I need to know already. And that's what they say to you. Look, mate, I live in... Oh, you've had that, haven't you? Look, mate, I live in the real world, me. All right, I've got that real world. Go to work, get married, have children, act normal. I am free. That's the real world they're talking about. The real world of human slavery masquerading as freedom. Wisdom tends to grow in proportion to one's awareness of one's own ignorance. Crucial. Or as Socrates said in ancient Greece, wisdom is knowing how little we know. And that opens the mind to all possibility, knowing that whatever we know, it's a fraction of what there is to know. What if all you ever knew was a lie? What if all we ever knew was a lie? That's extraordinary when you see the tidal wave of information that comes at us by the day. Well, William Casey, CIA director, will know when our disinformation program is complete, when everything that Americans believe is false. Their goal is that everything we believe is a lie, and they're bloody close. Truth is truth even if no one believes it. A lie is a lie even if everyone believes it. Truth doesn't look at numbers, it looks at what is. And I love that line. You see that on news programs. They're talking about a story. They'll say, well, what we know is, and then they'll start to tell you what the government has put out in a statement. That's what we know. No, that's what they bloody said. And what we know, well, what do we know at any point? Until 1929, scientists thought there was only one galaxy in the universe, the Milky Way. Today, they estimate minimum 100 billion. I've seen figures twice that, 3 times that, in estimates by other people. From 1 in 1929. And at that point, they would have said, what we know is, first step to awakening to true self, we know shit. From that starting point, we got a chance of knowing more than shit. Re-examine all you have been told. Dismiss what insults your soul, and that includes every word I say today if it insults your soul. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. I love the way he sings that, Bob Marley. None but ourselves can free our minds. So true. It's our mind. Only we can free it. And people think about enlightenment. Is it some kind of, trotting down country lanes with violins and little butterflies flying around with beautiful colors? Actually, it is this, brilliantly set out. Make no mistake about it. Enlightenment is a destructive process. Enlightenment is the crumbling away of untruth. It's seeing through the facade of pretense. It's the complete eradication of everything we imagine to be true. Blank sheet of paper, starting again. What goes on that blank sheet of paper has now got to convince me. And I don't care if you got letters after your bloody name or letters before your name. I couldn't give a damn. I'm deciding my sense of reality, not the system. And John Lennon said, the more real you get, the more unreal the world gets. Why? Because the more real, awakened you become, the more you see the madhouse. And it's been going on for centuries. This is Leonardo da Vinci. I awoke only to see that the rest of the world was still asleep. But only when you awaken do you see the world's asleep, because you were asleep with all of them before. This is what we need to transform human reality. We need the end of bloody normal. This is a great line. Normal is getting dressed in clothes that you buy for work and driving through the traffic in a car you're still paying for. In order to get to the job, you need to pay for the clothes and the car and the house you leave vacant all day so you can afford to live in it. Brilliant. And when one person suffers from delusions, we call it mental illness. When a society suffers from them, we call it normal. Because who decides normal? That which controls the information within the society. There you go. I've just been called normal. I've never been so insulted. Here, do you know they've said I'm not normal? I can't bloody believe it. Someone told me the other day. Icke is mad. He's not normal. You know my response to that? My response has always been, thank bloody God for that, right? What a relief. A world that's insane thinks I'm mad. Thank you, God. To you. History shows us that the people who end up changing the world are always nuts until they're right, and then they're geniuses. History is alive with it. As I said in a book years ago, today's mighty oak is just yesterday's nut that held its ground. Long enough for perceptions to change. Can you remember who you were before the world told you what you should be. Can any of us remember that? When we're born into a world and from day one we're told who we are, what we should do, what reality is, what we should aspire to, what we should oppose, all of it. Just a program. You know, this is my space. I'll decide what comes into it. And I don't care if you're a parent or a school teacher or a bloody politician, a scientist, an academic. I decide what comes into my space and my reality, not you. And when we do that, we can start to change. If you sense more, there is more. Yes. It's people get stuck in the mode of thinking. And when we feel something, what does it feel? You can say, well, it feels right. It shouldn't, but it does. This is the true self. This is the programmed self. Know the truth by the way it feels. And that's all I can say today. Because there's, my goodness me, there's so much information coming. But know it by how it feels. And let it run. Even if you're incredibly skeptical, which you have every right to be. Let it run and let's see the pieces go and then make a decision at the end. But how does it feel? Not how does it perceive from my belief system. Awaken, awaken, awaken. Awaken from the program.